Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in. How are we doing? Thank you for stopping in to listen to the first ever episode of a New Era podcast hosted by Fryddy and the OG Frid. My name is Hanson, better known as Fryddy online, and with me here, I've got my dad, the OG Frid. You want to say hi?
Hi there, guys. Hi, everyone. Hey there, Fryddy.
Hey there. So, with this being the first, I want to give a quick little introduction as to what we'll be talking about here in this podcast, and the topics that'll go into upcoming episodes. We are a big Boston sports family. We have been for a while. We're diehard fans, and most of our time spent on the phone every week is debating moves that the teams need to make and talking about the performance and whatnot, along with some betting stuff. So we thought, what a better time than to bring this into a podcast and have these conversations here, once or twice a week and just talk sports for an hour and shoot the shit a little bit. So that's what to expect. We started this at this time with this name because with the news of Belichick and the Patriots parting ways at the end of last week, we thought this was a great time. We saw a lot of stuff about the end of an era, the end of a dynasty. It sparked the name, it sparked the idea, and we're hitting the ground running with it. So with that being said, do you have anything you'd like to throw in here before we move on to our first ever topic?
Yeah, I think as Fryddy mentioned, we are on the phone, talking to each other or texting, and it's a good bit about sports. So again, thought that while we do it, some of our time could be spent hopefully educating you guys about our feelings on these great four sport teams in the New England area. I should add too, we can always throw in the Revolution because I'm a big soccer guy, love soccer. And heck, we can even throw in the new Boston Cannons of the PLL. So there's plenty of opportunity to talk about sports in New England and Boston, since we follow them on a daily basis. Love them, bet on them, as Hanson put. So might as well just let you know about what two guys, an old dude and a young dude, think about our teams, where they are now. Maybe some history too that I think I shock Hanson on a little bit from time to time. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, the history and the revolution, those are going to be definitely dominated by your side. You got the soccer and all. But outside of that too, we are going to be open to talking about all year round stuff. We're big golf fans. The Masters is a big thing, obviously coming up that we'll be discussing, I'm sure, March Madness, the World Series, the Super Bowl, the NHL playoffs, whatever it may be. Even if our teams aren't a part of it, we're still paying attention to it and we still love it. So, moving along, our first ever topic here, that's exciting, obviously is the news of Belichick and the Patriots parting ways. I just wanted to get some initial thoughts and reactions out of you. I think, honestly, you broke the news to me before I even saw the damn ESPN alert with your text saying Belichick was out. So you were up, you saw it happen. So give me kind of what went through your head, and if you got any parting words for Coach Belichick here.
Well, again, from watching the press conference, I think it was an absolute class act by the Patriots organization. 24 years, me growing up there, and watching, through Pete Carroll and then Parcells and some rough years. Yes, their first ever Super Bowl was in '86, and that was exciting, but team just couldn't do it with Tony Eason behind, and heck, Steve Grogan, I think, came and played in that game as well. But yeah, I think under Belichick, just a new way of doing sports as a business and as a culture brought that. You look at the fact that, so many of his former players have become coaches, some not successful, some so. so-so. But at least I think had them, consider getting into coaching and trying to do it the right way, which the Patriots have done for so long. And yes, I watched Teddy Bruschi and his mention of all things have to come to an end. I think we've seen that for a couple of seasons now. And like everything has to change and new energy, new ideas. Belichick is still, I think, going to be a fantastic coach if he, continues, goes to another organization. Will he have such an impact right off the bat? I really don't think he'll have a great impact. I mean, it's going to take him time if he wants to build that culture, that idea. And I don't know if he has it within him being, 71 years old. I think
I mean,
what he
he's
really wants
72 coming up, what, April or
yeah.
something?
Yeah, I think what he really wants to do, if he really wants to, is chase that number one all-time winning record. But that could be, beat by Andy Reid shortly. So I don't know if that's really, though, what his driving factor is. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. I mean, like you mentioned about the record, that's the big thing. And, I saw the news and everything, and I think Dave Portnoy, I saw his emergency press conference video, and he put it perfectly. He was like, it's bittersweet. We knew it was coming. To me, I mean, I mentioned this to you. This hurt nowhere near as much as the Brady news did. I was hearing the stuff, like I said, the end of an era and the end of the dynasty. I definitely think it was the end of the era. I think the dynasty was over when we lost Brady. I think these last couple of years have just been, lost there, but it doesn't take anything away from what he did for the organization, helped bring the 6 Super Bowls that we get to see, which is incredible in 24 years. I mean, that sort of success is unheard of. I would have loved to see him get the record with us, but the way that we're going, that was going to be at least another 2.5 years. And, I think it's better that we just move on here. We need to see a new brand of Patriots football a little bit. He needs to be refreshed somewhere else. I know you mentioned maybe not having as much of an impact going into the next spot, but we'll get into that later. Some landing spots and stuff that he might work well in. But all thanks to Coach Belichick, the greatest coach of all time. I know Saban just announced his retirement literally the night before too, but Belichick's still the GOAT. I don't want to take anything away from him, anything from Brady. Without Belichick, we would have no Brady, and without Brady, we would have no Belichick. But it sucks, but it's the right step.
Well, the interesting thing is, we bring up, and again, I think one of the great aspects that we're going to be able to bring in this podcast is an old dude and a young dude. And, when you talk about the 24 years of him and having a lot of success, a great number of success, unprecedented number of AFC East championships, the 6 Super Bowl rings, the 10 appearances. But yet, you look at that's your whole entire life.
Yeah, this is all I've known.
You don't know Belichick, and they do bring up, and I've listened to some bring up about, his time in Cleveland, and he had, I think it was 3 years, 4 years, 1 playoff appearance. So, I think, yes, he is a fantastic coach, but he was also put in a fantastic situation with a great owner that allowed him to do it. Which again, I don't know what situation he could potentially go to that owner will allow him. Maybe Atlanta. I don't know about the Chargers. I don't see him doing that here in Carolina. Being able to do
slow your roll there. We'll get into
that. But yeah, allowing him to just be able to, the Crafts allowed him to build a dynasty his way. So,
yeah, I mean, a great situation, and sad to see it go. but we've got some new to look forward to for the Patriots, which will be cool. I haven't seen anything but the Belichick run Patriots, and this was a painful year, but we'll see what comes of it. So to segue, like you were mentioning some of those spots, I've got a couple landing spots here for Belichick. I scoured a couple articles just to see, who was getting the most buzz. There are definitely, I'll say, two teams I saw in just about every single article. There was one I probably saw in about 75%. And then there was a couple other wild card ones that I'll throw at you here. Just give me your quick reaction to how you think the fit would be, the personnel that they have, the weapons that they could have offensively and defensively, if it makes sense, the situation that he'd be going into. So, like you'd mentioned Atlanta, that is one that
am I going to rate yay or nay, or
give me a A, B, C, D, F scale. How you like that?
Gotcha. All right.
A+, A- included. All right, so we've got the Atlanta Falcons, the first one. I've heard a lot linking them there. They've got the young offensive weapons there with the Kyle Pitts, the Drake London, Bijan. Question mark at quarterback with Ritter, but they can make some moves this offseason. And defensively, they weren't terrible this year. So how do you feel about Atlanta Belichick?
I'm going to give that an A to an A-. Desmond Ritter can definitely be a manageable quarterback, what Brady was his first couple of years coming out. Is he going to be that franchise quarterback? No, I don't think so. I think he's proven that right now. But, the cool thing is the kid's a winner at home. Been always a winner at home. But if he can manage the game, absolutely love all those weapons, especially that young running back they got. And in the early years, the team was built on defense and a big stud running back. So I like that one definitely high on the scale. That's an A, A-.
Do you think in Atlanta they're giving them kind of the keys to the castle with a little say on the GM capabilities again?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a big part of wherever he goes.
Yeah, I think that the ownership group in there would allow him. Blankenship would allow him definitely control.
Okay.
The
next one,
whoever the owner.
Yeah, I know what you mean. The next one we're seeing everywhere, and I think the big link is the young stud quarterback that you got there would be the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, granted, you got a big market. Herbert is a star, and Belichick could do a lot with developing him. Going from Brady to Herbert would just be incredible. You do have the big market of LA, but you are also competing with the Rams, and they got a whole hell of a lot more money to spend than the Chargers will. If that has any say into his GM capabilities. So how do you feel? How do you grade Belichick in LA with Herbert?
I really am going to give a B- to a C+. Sure. You look right away, you had mentioned big market, and obviously I think LA is a bigger market than Boston. But yeah, I really don't know if Bill Belichick and Glamour, Glitztown, Hollywood, LA really is his. I mean, first and foremost, and I don't think he's going to change no matter what with the media, but man, that would be awful.
That would be something to see.
Yeah, those press conferences I think will be just abysmal. Even they were already, and I think they'll be even worse. I really think that they, I know the guys here at Felger and those guys have been dealing with them, but I think they understood them.
Well, after 24 years, it's kind of hard to. It's hard not to.
Well, but even at the beginning, I think they knew what type of person he was. I just think the LA media would just crucify him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Makes sense. Okay, I like the grade for it. I messed up. I said there was 2 that I was seeing on every article. There was actually 3. I forgot about this one. And this one I've already heard that you've got some thoughts on. I think this makes sense. Um, the Washington Commanders, a lot of salary cap space, the number 2 overall pick there. You know, you've got some young, decent receivers in McLaurin and Dotson and Curtis Samuel, so you've got some weapons there. Brian Robinson emerged this year as a pretty reliable back. Defensively, they're a shit show, so that would be something that I'm sure Belichick would not like too much. I did hear something saying it might have just came through as a tweet, but that the Commanders might not look into this too much. I'm sure it's just a smokescreen. I mean, you're not going to pass up the greatest quarterback of all, or the greatest head coach of all time in NFL history if he's available. But how do you feel and grade him back in Washington?
Again, I think that's a C plus. I'll go B minus. Great ownership group. A lot of personality though in that ownership group. I think though that they're already talking about a change, so why not now with a Belichick change? Although they have a GM, but Bill already said, quote unquote, he would give that up. Obviously, you'd have tremendous amount of say of trying to build that defense back up, but they have assets, draft pick assets, I think, so they can easily, do that. Plus, I think that if you're in Washington and you mentioned plenty of cap space, new era with the ownership and the coach, guys are going to follow him. And again, the location of him being so close to Annapolis, he loves that area. Big lacrosse guy, could go to all of the damn games he wants to. I think, a good deal of it also has to, the guy he loves the water, right? Spent a lot of time in his boat in Nantucket. He could just stay right along the Chesapeake, just hanging out, finishing up. I think if it wasn't for the fact that the ownership group is going to be a lot more, I think, hands-on than the craft server were, I probably would rate this higher than that B. But I think it's a great situation.
Well, you got to think, from the whole Dan Snyder incident, like this ownership group needs to be hands-on. You really have to stir the boat in the right direction here, because it was an absolute dumpster fire there. But no, that all makes sense. I think the biggest thing about Belichick to Washington that I think would make the most sense for both, after the new regime comes in and everything, with it being a situation that needs fixing, the culture that he would bring to Washington, I think is going to be so helpful for both sides. I think that would make the most sense. But I like your grade on it, and obviously the familiarity with the location and all for him. All right, so those were the ones I've seen everywhere. This one I've seen majority of places. However, I've got my feelings about who they should hire as is. But the Las Vegas Raiders, there's not, it's Las Vegas. That's, I guess, its selling point there. I think they would be very dumb to move on from Antonio Pierce. I know interim head coaches don't usually have the best track record once you bring him back as a full-time. However, this one, I think the team loves him. Max Crosby, their star defensive end, just came out 2 days ago saying he will request a trade if Antonio Pierce is not back as the head coach. So with that being said, how do you feel about Las Vegas?
It's got to be a D. Yeah, I know that you have Mark Davis would probably give him a lot of carte blanche, give him the money. Brady's there too as ownership. But
that'd be funny.
Yeah, I know. Brady being his boss. But I don't see that as an option at all, location wise. Just and I don't think the Raiders have. I mean, they have a great big back, they have a good defense, but they're in a very tough division. Um, I don't think they have the pieces right now to be able to turn it around in the way that he would want to. Plus, you just had Josh McDaniels there, so I don't know if they rekindle another New England, even though it's Bill Belichick. Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
McDaniels can leave a sour taste in your mouth for anything New England related. Okay, the next one you briefly mentioned on it. As cool as it would be here that we live in Carolina Panthers, I think this is just a terrible spot. I think this is the most like unwanted head coaching job in the NFL right now. David Tepper is a time bomb, throwing drinks at fans. I mean, yeah, he's got money and he's a rich guy, and this would make sense to try to make a splash with Bill Belichick. But, I mean, the team is horrible. I mean, yeah, you got Bryce Young, a young quarterback, but you got nobody to protect them. Your weapons are terrible. The defense is terrible. I mean, it's a terrible spot to be in. But if anybody could turn it around, maybe it could be Bill Belichick. What grade do you give the Carolina Panthers?
I'm probably going to have to go. I'm probably going to say a B minus. And is it the ideal? The ownership is not ideal, but would Tepper grow up and allow him and not be so hands-on? I mean, obviously, he's seeing what he's doing to the MLS team as well and having a lot of turnover. So I think he's got to understand, maybe I just don't handle this as much as I have in the past. It is a weak division. You could win a couple games within your division, make a playoff, you turn around. But you gotta, and again, will guys want to come and play for him like a Corey Dillon did, like a Randy Moss did, like those guys, a Wes Welker did back in the day? Will guys want to come, even though it's a crap ass team with a crappy ass owner? But I don't know how much money they have as well in the cap.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar. I'm sure it's got to be a decent amount. I mean, well, then again, you're forking out terrible contracts to a 32-year-old Adam Thielen last offseason. So, I mean, you don't really know. I hate the spot. I really do. The B minus is a little shocking.
Adam in my fantasy helped me out. So
yeah, for like 6 weeks, and then he fell back off. But never. To another point. These next two, these are the last two I've got for you, and I'm gonna group them together because both situations. I think if something were to happen that these would open up, I think they might be similar situations. They're in the same division as well. The Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles, both crazy spots. Obviously, Nick Sirianni is those Eagles have been unfolding for the last 6 weeks. I think they lose tomorrow to Tampa Bay. I think the Cowboys win today against the Packers. However, you got to think if both of those guys can't make it out of this wild card round, there might be some conversations about, well, Bill Belichick's on the market, and we couldn't beat a 9-8 Tampa Bay Bucks team or a 9-8 Green Bay Packers team to advance past the wild card. How do you rate both of those? They might be the same, they might be different, but how are you feeling on that?
Well, yeah, I don't rate them the same. I'd probably say Philadelphia's in the C minus. I think, although obviously Location-wise, I think he would like it. I think he would be a Philly guy. I think the Philly
That's
fans would like
gross.
him.
That's terrible.
But I just don't see that actually occurring. The Cowboy job, even if he wins this playoff game, I think what McCarthy has to do is win a Super Bowl. And if he doesn't, I think he'd be out. He's got to go all
This
the way.
year?
Yeah.
What if he makes it to the Super Bowl? What if they win the NFC?
And he has to win a Super Bowl.
You're saying Super Bowl or bust, McCarthy's fired.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I think with this opportunity, I mean, look,
with this team,
he did it with Parcells. He did it once. He had brought Bill Parcells in. I think he would absolutely love to follow that up with Belichick.
Yeah. I mean, could you imagine those two old heads, Jerry Jones and Belichick, running that team? Oh my God, that'd be
in those press conferences.
Oh my goodness, what a joke!
Those press conferences.
They'd be.
I would give that
wild.
if he doesn't if he doesn't win the Super Bowl, that might be an A only because of the situation, the past experiences that Jerry Jones done. Already had Parcells all up with the one that he taught.
Yeah, makes sense. That would be crazy. Belichick coaching America's team. It makes no sense, and it almost makes too much sense at the same time. But all right, so that's all I've got for the Belichick landing spots. Got some good grades in there. I definitely think it's got to be one of those teams. If it's not, if it's some dark horse, I mean, we'll definitely be talking about that at some point. But I think it's got to be out of that group.
You know what would have been absolutely hysterical? And again, because he wouldn't do it, because he's chasing supposedly the record and wants the record. And he's already gone down no matter what. He's one of the greatest head coaches of all time. The greatest head coach of all time. Alabama. What if he went to college? God.
I was thinking about that too. Once they both retire, I was like, what if they just get fucking weird? What if Belichick goes to Alabama and Saban's like, yo, give me the keys to New England? Like, could you imagine how funny that would be?
What if Bill's like, yeah, you know what? I want to try this college thing out.
Yeah, let me try this.
Yeah, I'll take Michigan.
Oh my God. Could you imagine how easily recruiting would come to him? You're like, hey, it's Alabama, it's Michigan, but also I'm fucking Bill Belichick. Like, come play for me. Yeah. That would be so bad for college football. All right, so moving on from Belichick's landing spots to
Washington's open. Huskies are open.
He's not going to Seattle or whatever that is. Spokane. That's not happening.
No, Pete Carroll probably will.
Yeah,
and you know what? I'm sorry. I know you got segue. I know you have things to talk about. But again, I mentioned about that press conference and just bringing up Pete Carroll. And I know I saw him a couple of years as the coach in New England. That led into Belichick. But yet, did you happen to see his press conference?
I didn't, but I know something was said about he's probably going to step into like some sort of front office role there.
Right. But it was very emotional. He was getting emotional, but the interesting thing was that the ownership group wasn't part of it. Which also kind of had him talking somewhat that he was still part of the program that he kept on calling. If I was the Washington Huskies and you don't see a clear cut who you want to take over next, I would just put in Pete Carroll for a year or two, let him just finish it up.
I mean, he freaking did the damn thing at USC. I mean, he's clear that he can coach college. I don't know if he'd want to do it.
Right.
But it could make a little bit of sense. But I just think he stays
glad
on
that,
with the Seahawks.
I'm glad that you just went for a
Done.
news in because I
Yeah.
needed one too.
Okay,
We're
so
looking for sponsors, aren't we?
that would be an awesome one. Like I said, going from Belichick's landing spots and where we think he's going to, the New England job isn't open anymore. Obviously, we got that news very quickly because of the succession plan in Mayo's contract. But I've got a fun little exercise here. Let's go back, bring your mind back to Thursday morning. The news just came out.
Well,
Belichick
that's
is
easy.
parting
I can
ways.
do that. Okay.
Yep, I know. And think, hey, the spot is open, right? So I've got 10 different options. These are staffing options. I got a head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Got 10 of them. You've got to rank them 1 through 10. Blind ranking, which is I'm going to give it to you. You got to place it in there without knowing the other ones coming up, and you can't move it after you place it in there. So from your best to worst, be smart, leave some spots open. Yes, we know Jerod Mayo is the head coach, but this is just a hypothetical situation, of course.
Yes,
So,
but I like the fact that you're putting in all three and where I would have felt all three would have fit.
yeah,
Rather than
exactly.
Mayo. So okay.
All right, so the first one, we've got who I thought might have at least been given an interview. Mike Vrabel, head coach. Bill O'Brien, offensive coordinator. Jerod Mayo, defensive coordinator. 1 through 10, where do you put that one?
I would have put that two.
Joe?
Two. I would have loved to see it.
Might have some good ones on here too. I'll tell you that much. But I do really like that one. I think that would have been my ideal situation. Not that I don't believe in Mayo or anything like that, and we'll get into that later on. But I think just actually getting the experience, a couple years, maybe 3 or so, as the primary defensive coordinator, and then getting the succession plan to Mike Vrabel if it doesn't work out. I think that would be great for him. But nonetheless, I think he's going to be. I think it's a great hire and whatnot. So. Number 2, we'll stay with the same head coach. We go Mike Vrabel as head coach. We'll go Josh McDaniels as offensive coordinator, comes back. And we've got Steve Belichick as defensive coordinator. In this situation, say Mayo were to have left for another head coaching job.
I think I would do that as a 5.
5, okay. What do you... That's a little high up, but do you believe in, like, Steve as the defensive coordinator in that position a good amount? And the familiarity with Josh McDaniels?
High up, but I'm probably thinking, and as much as we've already put down Josh McDaniel as a head coach, I think the Crafts definitely like him, his offense. Say what you want. Is he an offensive genius or not? I think his offense obviously worked. Yes, you can say it worked because he had Brady, but it worked with Matt Castle.
It did. It's a good point. All right, moving on. Number 3, we'll get out of the Vrabel territory for now. We got our head coach, Jerod Mayo, offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien, and defensive coordinator, Steve Belichick. Where do you rank this one?
Probably 4.
Okay. I will note, I think that's probably going to be the one. I mean, at this point in time, I think it's the one that makes the most sense, keeping stuff on staff if we're not going to go for any outside hires. So I don't hate it or anything. I know we had talked earlier in the week about if Belichick does go somewhere, Steve could potentially go with him. So that will leave an opening at DC there. But I think that's a whole different conversation. Okay, so we got that one at number 4.
Yeah. I'm putting those there because of I really don't know if obviously Steve called the plays, but you still had Mayo there to lend a lot of support.
I mean, I've heard they were like co-DCs, right? It was said Steve was calling the plays, but everything during the weekdays, between game days from Monday to Saturday, Mayo was the guy at practice enacting the defensive, formations and teaching. Really, he just wasn't the one calling the plays for him. So I think that is a big part.
Yeah. And I don't, and again, if you're now moving into a head coaching role and you've already done that, do you really need a reminder of a Belichick in your room calling these?
Yeah,
So-called just calling the play, or do you continue to call and now you need someone else to do the teaching, but you're the call
yep,
player on defense? I mean, plenty of coaches have done that. Now I know it's
for
more, it happens more in the college field, but I think there's been plenty of guys that have fired their offensive coordinator and they call plays. I mean, Carolina's done it a couple times.
yep,
So a couple times, Frank
absolutely.
Wright did a couple times within the year. Yes, you're doing it. No, mine. Now I'm doing it. Nope, you're doing it.
Yep, I know. That's a good point. All right, so this one's a little more fun. Um, and I threw this in here. I changed this morning because of our conversation, I think yesterday about it. I don't know how much sense it makes, but I like to call this one the linebacker crew. We got Jerod Mayo, head coach, Mike Vrabel, offensive coordinator, Dante Hightower, defensive coordinator. Keep in mind, I think as Mayo has already noted, that he is going to try to recruit him. He said a couple years back that um, he was asked about Dante Hightower, and he had mentioned, if I ever get my own keys to the ship, I'll definitely recruit him on to at least, I'm sure, handle the linebacking coach, because that's going to be open with Mayo as the head coach now.
Well, I got to grade this before I say what I'm going to say, and I've done what, two,
You
three,
got two,
four.
four, and you've got 2, 4, and 5 filled. So you got 1, 3, and
So
then 6
three.
through 10 still open. 3.
I would say three. I would love it, but I don't think having variable as your OC, you're putting Matt Patricia in. I mean, the guy's smarter. I would love it. It would be a dream, but I didn't want to put it down at 6, and I'm showing my hand a little bit by putting it at 3 because of something else you said.
Hightower.
Yeah, but I mean, as a fan, I would love it. I just think, and unfortunately, I already I would have put it probably, to be honest, like 4 or 5 if I didn't use those already. I put it at 3 because it would be awesome.
It'd be fun. Yeah.
It'd be fun, and I'm probably putting it high up because it's fun. I didn't want to give it that low of a grade down into 6 and 7, where it probably really should because of the staff or the players in the staff, primarily variable being the OC. But I put it at number 3 because it would be, the linebacking group would be so cool.
It would be fun. I definitely think that's a little high considering some of the other ones we got coming down the pipeline here. I probably would have put them at, like, as much as I love it and it is fun, like you mentioned, Vrabel is OC. I don't see a lot of success. Hightower at DC, I think he's a great player. We don't know any coaching experience yet, so that could be a red flag there. I think like that probably should have been around maybe 7 or 8. Left some spots open, but to each their own. Going on to number 5 here, I've got Jerod Mayo, head coach, Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator, and Brian Flores, current Vikings DC, makes his return back to New England to be the DC on this staff. How do you feel about this one?
Wow. Because I already showed my hand where I would love, but that one, yeah. I'm not going to put that at 6 or 7 or 8. And we have so many left, but I'm going to put that at number 1.
Number 1. I really do. I like that one too. When I was making these, I was like, as long as McDaniels can come in here and be good at offense again, like we've seen in the past, Flores, I mean, just getting back in the system, I think, I'm pretty sure Mayo and him overlapped at some point with their coaching experience. I want to say, I think if they
At
do,
least
if
I
they are
think
familiar with each
playing.
other.
I think playing wise, I think
Yeah,
he
that too.
probably played
That too.
Flores.
So I think that would be cool. But it also raises the question. I mean, yes, he does love New England, but I don't even know if that's really a lateral move at this point. DC to DC, from Minnesota to New England. I mean, I don't know if it's enough to grab him back, but
Right, but I think if he wants to, and who knows, maybe he doesn't want to become a head coach down the line, but I think it would give him a better. I mean, face it, I think the Patriots with Mayo as we know, the head coach, will probably receive, I would assume, more media time, more national media game or national games.
youngest head coach in the NFL. They're gonna
Yeah,
push that everywhere, going from the oldest to
yeah.
the youngest this year.
So if Flores can do well with his defense, which is already fantastic, as long as the guys resign and stay, which I think they will.
Keep in mind, we'll get Judon
You're,
and Christian Gonzalez back too from injury.
yep. I mean, you're gonna look fantastic. And if you want to become a coach, either in the collegiate or the pro level, head coach, why not?
Yep. All right. Moving on to number 6. These ones, I'll say the top 5 were probably, I'd say the more semi-realistic ones. These last 5, we'll get a little more fun. You'll see what I mean definitely at the end. But number 6 here, we've got Ben Johnson, the current Lions offensive coordinator, probably the hottest coaching target outside of Belichick on the market this offseason for teams looking for a new head coach. You got Ben Johnson at head coach, Bill O'Brien at offensive coordinator, Jerod Mayo at defensive coordinator.
I think that probably would be in a 7.
7. Okay. Are you starting to
Um,
see why maybe you should have kept some spots open?
well, I mean, though that, and I don't mind putting that at 7 because I don't know how a Ben Johnson and Bill O'Brien
Yeah.
I don't think that would work very well
I think
at all.
that's
Especially trying to bring in most likely a new quarterback,
yeah.
setting up your own new system. I mean, Ben Johnson's going to have his idea of how he wants to play on the offensive side of the ball. And I think it's going to totally differ from Bill O'Brien. And you're bringing in a young guy as is, a new guy. If you try to keep Mac Jones and use either your third number 3 pick or your top second round pick and not grab Dane Daniels or whoever, that might fall. Yeah. But I just think it would be too much of a clash. I don't think it would work.
And I think it's something to note, obviously. Ben Johnson, great offensive mind. If him and Bill O'Brien were to butt heads at some point, you got to give a little, leeway to Ben Johnson, which as an offensive coach over the last 2 years has made Jared Goff a great top 12 quarterback in the league. ARSB has blown up. I mean, this year he's a first team all pro, so he can definitely do something with a good young weapon. Great offensive mind, but I think it's something to note. The weird thing about the Patriots, whereas other teams right now, a staff of Ben Johnson, Bill O'Brien, and Jerod Mayo, they're sitting there, they're like, yes, make the splash. This could be number 1. I think the weird thing to note about the Patriots is even with Belichick gone, it's still going to be one of those we'd rather go around and bring back our guys or hire within than to bring in somebody from a completely new conference and team and everything like that. I think it's something that will stay with the Patriots. So it makes sense putting them down there.
One thing we haven't discussed in any of these is obviously you're going to be the one that follows Bill Belichick. Cam
Yeah.
Newton, somewhat, but really Mac Jones was the guy to follow Tom Brady. And obviously we've seen that not work out for a number of reasons for the poor kid. Offensively, who's teaching the system, although he did well with McDaniels, but I, I, do you want to be, as much as would be cool, but you're leaving Detroit
Yeah.
to go into Boston,
Do you want to
big
fill those
market,
shoes?
and fill that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Moving on to this is number 7 here. Kind of a similar situation. We're grabbing a young offensive
I
coordinator
still
from
got.
another.
I still
You've
have
got
6, 8, 9, and 10.
yes, those are the ones you have open.
Okay.
So this one, like I said, similar situation. You're going and grabbing a young offensive coordinator from a team that exploded this year. You got Bobby Slowick, the Houston Texans offensive coordinator. Went and was able to develop C.J. Stroud, young rookie quarterback, which should hopefully be our situation for next year. You got him at head coach. You got Bill O'Brien at offensive coordinator, and Jerod Mayo at defensive coordinator again.
8.
8. That
Yeah.
makes sense. I think I like Ben Johnson more than Slowick. I think most people would agree on that too. So yeah, I like that. I like that ranking there. All right. So these next ones are the weirdest ones I've got for you. And actually, the way that this is shaping out, this is probably good. I think you've redeemed yourself with these rankings. So number 8 here, I've got Jim Harbaugh, head coach, Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator, Jerod Mayo, defensive coordinator.
6.
6. Okay.
6.
I will go to say I don't think he leaves. I think he probably does. I don't think he should. I think outside of maybe LA with Justin Herbert, I don't think I'm looking at a single one of those teams that have a head coach opening and saying this situation is better over the next 5 years than the powerhouse that I can continue to build at Michigan,
Yeah. And I think of and I put the Ben Johnson at 7 and then the other one at 8. The only other person as a head coach that could be the one that comes in after the greatest head coach of all time would be Harbaugh.
Makes a lot of
If
sense.
you're
That's a good
going
point.
outside of the family.
Yep. Okay, number 9 here. I mean, we had mentioned it a little earlier. I hate this just because of the fact that we've seen this guy fizzle out as a head coach multiple opportunities. But for some reason, we know the Patriots love him, and if anybody's going to get another shot, it's going to be him with the Pats. Josh McDaniels, head coach. Bill O'Brien, offensive coordinator. Jerod Mayo, defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I think that's got to be a 9.
9. Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you have great defense. I just think it'd be so many heads. That room would just button and
the culture would fucking die by week 4. I mean, it would.
Yeah.
I don't like it. All right, and then the last one I've got for you. This is going to slot in at number 10 since it's the only one you have open. Probably makes sense. But it's the most fun one I have. We've got the all former players coaching staff here. Mike Vrabel, head coach. Tom Brady, offensive coordinator. And Jerod Mayo, defensive coordinator.
yeah. Wow. I only wish I had one open. No. That would be absolutely number 10.
Yeah.
Even
it's gotta
if
be.
I didn't really pick anything else, I would have put that at number 10.
Yep. Well, there's your list. I like it. I like I said, I think you redeemed yourself. Once we go through and edit this, I'll have this on the screen live time too, filling in those spots. But so to transition from potential coaching staff candidates and staff replacements there, we've got our actual head coach, our youngest head coach in NFL history now, the one and only Jerod Mayo. Give me a quick rundown of how you like this, or how you like or dislike this hire, and how you feel about him.
I mean, I like the hire. A lot of people have said it's an A minus him or variable. Either way, they would have loved either one. He has no experience so far, but I think he definitely will have the room, the players. And I think in this day, I mean, I think you already alluded to, Crosby, wanting to, if his coach doesn't get rehired, he's going to ask for a trade. Players have that ability nowadays, and we'll do it. We'll demand it. They can hold out if they don't get what they want. Freaking little crybabies. But you can edit that out. No. I think though he's definitely going to get, the players are going to want to play for him.
Yeah,
it'll be exciting. And I mean, the defense was already griping already that they're doing all the shit and the offense wasn't doing anything.
Yeah,
they'll play. I think they'll play even more for him. I could see this. This will be a top 3 defense next year.
Yeah, and I mean, there's not much to really improve. I'm pretty sure we were still a top 5 defense, with being how terrible we were this year. And with Mayo having the head coaching role there, I mean, I feel he's gonna build his staff well. He's still gonna be involved on the defensive end. I like what you mentioned about being like a player's coach. I think that's huge nowadays. I think it's going to help to continue to, smooth over the culture. I think Mayo's going to do a good job at bringing that over and keeping the status quo here. Like you said, I would have liked Vrabel or Mayo. I think both of them would have been home run hires. I love the hiring. My only gripe about it is I wish we would have at least taken enough time to give Vrabel an interview. However, once it comes out and says, in Mayo's contract that they restructured and re-signed him last year, that he was a succession plan, obviously the Patriots know that there was never going to be that. It literally said in his contract that they don't even have to open up interviews for for other candidates. They can just go ahead with them. So they knew what they were doing. So I'll believe in the crafts and everything here. But I think you had something to say there.
Yeah, I was going to mention the one thing, and I think I sent it in a text earlier to you, and I'll bring it up for the audience too, that you will see though an increase in the staff at a variety of positions that we haven't had in years. I mean, you look at their official coaching staff. And by far, they didn't have as many staff members as any other team out there.
Yeah,
I think they alluded to having multiple roles, which maybe was a deterrence a couple of years ago, and why they didn't do as well as they should or could have, because the guys were too thin. And they just didn't have that mind. So I think you will see opportunities like Hightower, who I'd absolutely love, like Matthew Slater, who I would hope, like Troy Brown, all former greats.
Devin McCourty
of this team.
Yeah. No, I think that's great, and I hope that we expand the staff in that way and continue to kind of build on that new, playing for the coach, player coach sort of style that Mayo can bring in that Belichick never was able to, really. Okay, so enough about Mayo. Excited about this and excited about the year to come and to see what he does, especially leading up to the draft and everything, how he builds out this team. Before we end this off here, we are obviously right in the middle of Super Wildcard Weekend. We had 2 games played last night, with the Texans absolutely dismantling the Browns and the Chiefs handling the Dolphins, as I think we all knew was going to happen. Tua was never going into Arrowhead and playing in that weather and winning that game. But we've got 4 more games on the Wildcard Weekend. I'm going to go through really quickly here. I got spreads and over-unders. I wanted you to give initial leans, how you're feeling about this, and just a quick rundown of the game to kind of just to, get behind whatever lean you're putting on the spread or the over-under or anything.
No, I absolutely love to, because I think in our yearly pick'em poll that we did, did I win?
Don't bring it. It's still yes, you won, but here's the thing. All right, we're not doing that damn app again next year because I thought that it was going to allow us to at least pick the playoff games. If it was picking the playoff games, I was going to come back and beat you. It was only like within 4. Bad year picks for me.
So I guess we're not mentioning the app that we use because we don't want them as a sponsor.
Moving on. So
like Sleeper.
Like Sleeper. The first game we've got here in about 22 minutes.
Hey,
actually.
Does Sleeper do a pick?
They might. I'll look into that for next year. We've got the Green Bay Packers going into Dallas.
That would be great on top of our fantasy league that we're in. And on top of worrying about your players, you have to make everyone pick as well. That would be great.
They're not going to agree to that. Packers coming into Dallas today, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. We've got the Cowboys favored by 7.5 right now. Over under set at 52. Give me your leans.
It's at 7.5 now.
7.5.
Has it always been? Wow.
I don't know. I don't know what it opened up at. I think it was less than a touchdown, but we've definitely got some line movement.
Yeah, because Savannah and I were talking about that this morning, and she actually got them at a great. I was like, wow, I can't believe you got Dallas at that number. But I would take. I'm still going to take the Cowboys, even though it's at 7. You said 7.5.
7.5. Yep.
7.5. I have the Cowboys money line. I picked them. I still would believe, though, 7.5 they'll win. And you said it was 57?
52.
52? I think I'll take an under on that.
Okay. I think I'd go 7.5 is a lot of points, obviously, in a playoff game. But with being in Dallas, where they've just been dominant all this year, I think you can take the 7.5. Surprising you'd go the under on that. I think just because I think if you're laying into the 7.5, you're laying into a Cowboys beatdown almost. And I think with a Cowboys beatdown, the over pairs too well there. So, I could see also the Packers not scoring.
Right. I don't see the Packers scoring maybe more than 10 points.
10. Okay. I was thinking maybe 17. Maybe I heard a prediction yesterday, like a 41-17. That's giving you 58. That's giving you the over. Could happen. I think hitting the over all relies on the Cowboys here, but
yeah, no, I think it'll be more of if the Cowboys get up early, it's just going to be a ground game.
Yep.
And the clock will run. And even if they stop Green Bay deep and they have good field position, 40, 45, I think they're still going to run. And then I think once you get into the red zone, there'll be something stupid. A pick, a fumble.
Give me one very quick, top of your head, anytime touchdown scorer in this game. Who are you taking?
Tony Pollard.
Okay. Moving on to the late game today. What most have been saying is the game of the weekend. We got Matthew Stafford and the Rams making his homecoming to Detroit with their first home playoff game in 30 years. We've got the Lions favored by 3 points, over under set at 53. How are you leaning on this one?
The atmosphere obviously will be electric. Everyone will be excited in that stadium. And the Lions are not yet a team of destiny. They'll win this game. I think it'll be darn close. I would probably take the over because I think a lot of points are going to be scored. But I think in the end, Matthew Stafford will do something stupid and throw a pick in the end with the opportunity to win the game.
Are you taking the +3 or the
3? Yeah.
+3 Rams? Okay. This one, I've been seeing everybody and their fucking mother on the Rams money line, on the Rams spread this weekend. I think it's going to be a good game.
I'm sorry. I'm taking the Lions.
You taking the Lions 3 points? Good. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a darn close game, but I think it will be by 3 points or 4, and I think Stafford will have an opportunity to win the game, but he won't. It'll be
like I said, I've seen everybody on the Rams, and I think this is going to be a great game for maybe like 3 quarters. This is the Super Bowl for the Lions. Quite frankly, they got to win this game, and I think I'm taking the 3, and I'm feeling good about it. And yeah, I guess I'll take the over. All right, tomorrow's game. We've got the Eagles going into Tampa Bay. Eagles are 3-point favorites. Over under is set at 43.5. You'll notice I didn't say the Bills Steelers game because breaking news while we were on here, it got postponed again. So, Eagles Bucks, where are you going on this one?
Eagles have to show up. They have to win, or their season is an absolute disaster. Tampa Bay, I think, will find a way to, not win. Their coaching staff, Boyles, he'll do something. They'll do something stupid. It'll be tight for the first 2 quarters, and then you go into halftime, and adjustments will be made, and the Eagles will soar. No pun intended. They will soar, and it will be Eagles like 37-21.
Okay. Oh, so you're going way past the over. So this is where we differ. 5 out of 6 in the regular season lost. The team looks like frauds. They're without AJ Brown. Devontae Smith is banged up. Jalen Hurts probably is still missing a middle finger. I want in my heart the Eagles to lose. I want in my mind the Eagles to lose. I think Baker Mayfield comes out here and puts his dick on the table and beats this fucking team, beats the defending NFC champion, lets them home early. And then the fallout, we'll see what happens with Nick Sirianni or whatever else with the Eagles. But I'm taking the Bucks. I'm taking the Bucks money line. I'm taking the Bucks +3. And at 43.5, I'll probably slightly take the over. Maybe like a 24-20, 27-20 sort of game. So you're just hitting that. But I got the Bucks in this one. So that'll move us on to our last game of the Super Wildcard Weekend, which now won't even be a weekend. We're doing this from damn Saturday to Tuesday. But we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers going into the frozen tundra avalanche that is the Buffalo Bills right now. Bills Mafia. We got Bills -9.5. I know I've seen that number go down. I think I saw it at like -10 yesterday or something. It opened around like 6, something like that. You got over under set at 38.5. You know, keep the weather in mind. How you leaning here?
Gotta stick with my Bills. That is a lot of points, but I think, no matter what, it's still going to be damn cold. I don't think Pittsburgh, with whatever quarterback they put out there, is going to be able to, even though they have done a lot better offensively after getting rid of Canada, but I don't think they'll be able to. It will still be windy. Even if you don't have snow, it's still going to be windy. We saw that New England Buffalo game with all that wind that one time, and now New England
Mac Jones threw like 2 passes. Yeah, 2-3 passes.
So I think it's going to be a game sort of that, but the Bills. Von Miller will have a game. Defensively, they'll be great. And I'll probably, though, even though it might clear, or at least you won't have the heavy snow, I still will go the under because I think Buffalo is probably at most 21 points. And I think the Steelers will just put up 10, 9, 10.
Yeah. I mean, this one's easy. I really hope this doesn't come back to burn me. I really hope it's not one of those games because I've seen everybody on the side, and hopefully the Steelers don't keep it close or whatever. But you take Bills money line to the bank. You take Bills minus 9.5 to the bank. You take under 38.5 to the bank. You throw them all in a parlay. You watch this absolutely disgusting game. The Steelers beat down. Mason Rudolph's going to get killed in Buffalo. This shouldn't even be fun. But I'm pretty sure that's an easy one. We'll see. We'll see how it. It's the playoffs. Anything can happen. But I mean, this is as clear as day here, I feel like. But that's all of them then. That's all of our wild card. I was going to say let's go through all the playoffs, but we're running close to the kickoff of this other game, so we'll keep that for another time. Maybe next week we'll record one, and then after the wild card we'll go from divisional and on. But then that'll wrap it up for us. So I appreciate y'all all listening to this. Hope you had a good time listening to our some of our stupid takes, our analysis, and we continue to look forward to producing more content and more fun, more laughs going forward throughout the year with our year-long coverage of our Boston sports and whatever else. So you got any last words before we sign off here on the first episode?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, as we continue to go through this, I think our personalities will come out more and more. I was absolutely surprised. I got a lot of names correct.
Yeah, that was big.
Yeah, as sure, if you continue to listen to us, which we hope you do, you'll find out that I will mess up names, and that's why I have my son making fun of me and being able to correct me, and hopefully be able to edit it where I don't sound as stupid. So.
Definitely not going to happen. I'm going to leave those in there. But all right, that is Fryddy and the OG Frid signing off for the first time. Thank you for listening to a New Era podcast. We can't wait to be in your ears again. Have a good night, a good week. Have some fun watching some wild card football. We'll catch you next time.